Have you ever wondered why smart and capable women sometimes overlook clear red flags in relationships? Why do some women stay even when warning signs are flashing like neon billboards? If yes, you're in the right place. Today, we are diving deep into a topic that puzzles many of us: why women ignore red flags in relationships. Before we dive in, if you find this topic interesting, please hit the subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you won't miss any of our future videos. Are you ready? Let's get started. Reason 10: denial and cognitive dissonance. Denial is not just a river in Egypt. The truth is, our brains are pretty good at ignoring things we don't want to see. This is called cognitive dissonance, where your thoughts and reality clash and are uncomfortable. For example, you might know that your partner isn't treating you right, but you don't want to admit it because that would mean making a hard decision. This mental tug-of-war can make you ignore red flags in a relationship. Accepting these warning signs would mean you have to do something about them, and that's hard. It's easier to live in denial, telling yourself that things aren't that bad or will get better. But this can lead to a cycle of ignoring problems until they become too big to manage. Reason 9: love as a justification. Love can make us do funny things, right? One of the most common reasons women ignore red flags is simply because they love their partner. When you love someone, it's so easy to dismiss their faults. You might catch yourself saying things like, "But I love him, so it's okay if he does this," or "Love conquers all, right?" Love becomes a kind of filter that changes how you see things. However, love shouldn't be a free pass for bad behavior. It's vital to remember that love is crucial in a relationship, but it's not the only thing. Respect, trust, and kindness are just as important. If there are red flags, you have to ask yourself, is love enough to sustain the relationship in the long run? Ignoring red flags because of love can lead to an unbalanced and ultimately unhappy relationship. Reason 8: fear of financial instability. Money talks, and sometimes it says, ignore those red flags. Financial stability is a real concern for many women, especially if they rely on their partner for income. When you're financially dependent, leaving a relationship isn't just an emotional decision, it's also a financial one. This can make you ignore issues that you shouldn't. It's not just about not having money for yourself, it's also about the lifestyle you're accustomed to, or maybe even the kids involved. Fears like these can make even glaring red flags seem like minor issues. It's as if you start putting a price tag on your well-being. The worry about money can overshadow real concerns about your relationship. That's not a trade-off anyone should make, but it's a reason why some women overlook serious issues. Reason 7: family and peer opinions. We all like to think we make our own decisions, but let's be honest. What our family and friends think does matter to us. When it comes to relationships, this influence can be even more significant. If your family and friends like your partner, you might ignore red flags you would otherwise take seriously. Why? Because it's easy to think, if everyone else likes them, the problem must be me. Here's where it gets tricky. If your inner circle likes your partner, you might suppress your concerns, thinking they are not that important. But your feelings matter too. Red flags are red for a reason. They are warning signs that something is not right. Ignoring them because your family and friends approve of your relationship can lead to unhappiness. Reason 6: the sunk cost fallacy. The sunk cost fallacy is another tricky reason why some women ignore red flags. Let's say you've spent months or even years in a relationship. You've given your time, energy, and love to make it work. And now, you start noticing red flags. What do? Many people think, I've put in so much, I can't leave now. You feel like you must stay because you've invested a lot. This is a flawed way of thinking. Just because you've spent time in a relationship doesn't mean you must keep spending time if it's unhealthy or unfulfilling. But it's tough to think clearly when you're emotionally invested. You might think staying is a way to not waste all you've invested. However, sticking around when there are red flags can actually mean wasting even more: your future happiness. Reason 5. Low self-esteem. Low self-esteem can mess with your judgment in a big way, especially in relationships. If you don't think highly of yourself, settling for less than you deserve becomes easier. You start justifying your partner's bad behavior. Thoughts like, maybe it's my fault he's acting this way, or I can't expect anyone better than this, start to flood your mind. You become your worst critic, blaming yourself for things that aren't even in your control. The real problem here is that this self-blaming attitude can make you ignore red flags. These are warning signs that you should not ignore. When you have low self-esteem, these flags might not even look red to you. They might look like things you must endure because you think you can't do better. And that's a dangerous place to be in. Reason 4. Belief in change. Now, let's talk about believing your partner will change. This is a common trap many women fall into. Whether it's thinking, he'll be more responsible once we're married, or she'll be more loving after we have kids, these thoughts can be dangerous. They make you ignore the current problems in your relationship. It's like waiting for a future that may never happen and ignoring the present because you think it's just a phase. People do change, but there's no guarantee it will happen the way you want it to. So, what are you left with? Unfortunately, you're left with the person as they are now, not as you hope they will be. Holding on for potential change is risky. If you ignore red flags, thinking things will get better, you might end up waiting for a day that never comes. Reason 3. Emotional investment. Emotional investment in a relationship is like building a tower, one brick at a time. Every day spent together, every shared laugh, every struggle you faced side by side adds up. Over time, you feel like you've built something substantial that's too precious to walk away from. And that's where the problem starts. This investment often becomes a blindfold, making it hard to see the red flags. What usually goes on in your mind? I've invested so much time, how can I give it all up? Or, we've been through a lot together. Leaving now would mean it was all for nothing. This mindset traps you into thinking that the past outweighs the present. But it doesn't. A bad situation now isn't improved by the time you've invested. Emotional investment can feel like a weight, holding you down and keeping you from making rational decisions about red flags in your relationship. Reason 2. Fear of being alone. Nobody wants to end up alone. It's a natural human instinct to seek companionship. But the fear of loneliness can sometimes be so overpowering that it clouds judgment. It can make women overlook things they normally wouldn't. A small issue here and there, and suddenly, you're making excuses for your partner's bad behavior. Why? Because the alternative is to be alone, which scares you more than the problem at hand. Imagine coming home to an empty house, eating dinner alone, and watching TV with no one to share your thoughts with. For some, that's a scary image, and it can push them to ignore glaring issues in their relationship. So, even if a partner is toxic, unreliable, or disrespectful, the fear of being alone can make those red flags seem less significant. This is not just about fearing an empty bed or home. It's also about fearing the judgment and pity that comes with being single, which brings us back to societal pressure. Reason 1. Social pressure to maintain a relationship. Social pressure is no joke, especially when it comes to relationships. How often do you hear someone say, "When are you getting married?" as if that's the ultimate goal in life? And let's not forget the infamous, "You're not getting any younger." Although these statements might seem innocent, they can really mess with a woman's judgment. It's like society has set this timeline for women: date by this age, get married by that age, and so on. It can feel like a ticking clock, which often leads to rushed decisions in relationships. It's not just about age, there's also the status that comes with being in a relationship. People in relationships are often viewed as more stable, responsible, and adult. So, suppose a woman is facing pressure from family, friends, or society. In that case, she might ignore red flags to fit into this mold created for her. There you have it, folks. 10 reasons why women might ignore red flags in a relationship. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring that notification bell for more enlightening topics like this one.